The bolt-on look hood deflector that we have here today for the 2009 to 2018 Ram will be a slightly different take on the traditional method of hood protection, thanks largely to the added detail of the hardware. Now this option will utilize molded ABS plastic along with a textured black finish, offer right around that $200 mark. Installation is not going to involve any drilling or permanent modification here, gang, so therefore the site's going to stick to solid 1 out of 3 wrench rating on the difficulty meter, and I'd say call this one about an hour at most to complete from start to finish, as we'll demonstrate later in the video. You know who's going to love this thing? Ram owners who have installed those bolt-on look pocket style flares, and you just want to keep that look consistent. At least that's what it seems like by looking at some of our customer submitted images. And I will say, for what it's worth, it works, right? If you're into those pocket flares with the hardware, well then adding the bolt-on look hood deflector here certainly makes a lot of sense and does flow rather well. As always, guys, feel free to check out those customer submitted images I am referring to get a better look for yourself. Now, on the other hand, if you don't have those pocket style flares, you don't plan on adding them, no worries, as the deflector is going to look perfectly fine without them. But appearance aside, this piece is designed to serve an actual purpose, of course, and that is to protect the leading edge of your hood from rock chips, bugs, and other debris, which, as us truck owners can attest, is a very real problem. Now, you are of course going to find several different options here on the site, but again, this one is going to be a little bit more unique thanks to the hardware, and as such, the price is going to be a little bit more than what you might spend on some of the more basic smoked acrylic options. Now, materials will be nice and thick here, guys, molded ABS plastic to be exact, and that's going to feature a black textured finish, which is similar to those flares we just mentioned earlier, along with other black exterior plastic found around your truck. Now, for what it's worth, I think the material is going to be a lot more durable than compared to some of those smoked acrylic options that we just talked about. So maybe guys doing a lot of trail riding out there, this might be a solid choice, as I feel like, again, it's just going to hold up a lot better to some subtle impacts and so on, compared to maybe those tinted options that will be a little bit more affordable at the end of the day. But aside from that, I really like just how well this thing fits on the hood of your Ram. I was very impressed by how well it kind of hugged the lines of the hood on the 1500s, 09 to 18 of course, and that's something I think you guys will enjoy too once you get this piece installed. Speaking of which, now we want to show you just what it takes to get this hood deflector on your 09 to 18 Ram at home. Again, you're going to look at a combination of hand tools, 3M tape, mounting clips, and so on. No drilling, no permanent modification. Pretty straightforward job at the end of the day. Without further ado, check out our detailed walkthrough and tool breakdown right now.
Tools used for this install are a ratchet, T47 Torx bit, and a metric tape measure. For this install, we're going to be working on the very front edge of our hood. You're going to want to make sure to start off with a good clean and dry surface that's free from any wax or debris. There's a good bit of measuring involved with this process, but I'm going to walk you through every step of it, so let's get started. I'm going to start by using the provided alcohol prep pad to clean off the front edge of my hood to make sure that I have a good, clean, and dry surface ready for install. Next, you'll want to find the center line of your hood. I'm just going to use my emblem here on the front grille and go straight up. Once I have that center line, I'm going to use one of the clear plastic abrasion protectors and stick that just to the bottom edge, and then I can roll that up and over the front of the hood. So next I'm going to measure up 80 millimeters from the front edge of my hood and install one of these rubber cone supports for underneath of the hood deflector. There is a metric tape measure provided in the kit, however I just like to use my regular tape measure that has both metric and standard measurements on it. Now, working off of my center line, I'm going to measure over 510 millimeters to the left and to the right of center line and install another clear plastic abrasion protection device. Once again, sticking that to the underside and rolling it up and over the front edge. Once again, working off of the center line, I'm going to measure over 430 millimeters to the left and right of the center line, and then 80 millimeters off of the edge of the hood, and I'm going to install another small cone rubber support for underneath of the deflector. That goes there. So next I'm going to install the first 3 pedestals for the mounting of the deflector. One of them is going to go in the very center on my center line. The other 2, I'm going to measure 255 millimeters to the left and to the right of center and install my other 2 pedestals there. Now that I have my first 3 pedestals set into place, I'm going to measure from the outer 2 pedestals that I set in place, and I'm going to measure 260 millimeters to the left of the one on the left side and the right on the one on the right side. That should put you right in the middle of the clear abrasive plastic protector that you put on earlier. And I'm going to use the slightly bent pedestal, and I'm going to follow the contour of the hood. Now doing the same thing on the other side of the hood, measuring 260 millimeters off of my pedestal that is offset of the center. My final pedestal needs to be set here on the outer edge of the hood, 280 millimeters off of the center line of this pedestal that we just installed. Once I have that measurement right, I can stick that in place right here on the corner of the hood and do the same thing on the other side. Measuring 80 millimeters from the corner of the hood, that's there, and 20 millimeters in from the edge, that would be here. I'm going to place one more support cone on both sides of the hood. The last thing I need to install are these 2 small bump-ins that go here on the inside corner of the hood. They just go right next to your outermost pedestal for your mounting. Using the center line as my starting point, I'm going to install 3 metal brackets, one on each of the places where I put the anti-abrasion pads. So here in the middle, just push that up into the place until the slotted bolt hole lines up with the bolt hole on the pedestal. And then skip one to your left and skip one to your right. So now we're finally ready to bolt this into place. I'm going to use a T47 Torx bit socket and the provided screws with the washers. I'm going to start all my bolts and then I can tighten them down. I have all my screws started by hand, and now I can take my T47 Torx bit socket and tighten them down. I'm going to start in the middle and just work my way to the outer edges. And that's going to wrap up this review and install of the premium bolt-on look hood deflector fitting your 2009 to 2018 Ram 1500. Thanks for watching, and for all things Ram, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.